A lot of people are talking about Joe Biden's age. Um, a lot of people talked very recently about Nancy Pelosi's age when she was running for re-election as Speaker. And the question comes up, well, if Joe Biden were to win the election, he's way, way ahead in the polls on the Democratic side right now. If he were to win the election, his first four-year term would start not long after his 78th birthday, which means he'd be 82 at the end of his first term. Is that too old? Is that too old to run for president? Is it too old to be president? Is it too old to be a good president? Does being 78 mean that you are more likely to be infirm and incapacitated during your first term in office? I think the thing that's easy to forget is that age is a personal characteristic that is protected by law. It is a form of discrimination to be ageist. And while society doesn't take ageism terribly seriously, it is every bit as serious as every other form of discrimination, whether that's based on sex, gender, race, religion, sexuality. It is another form of prejudice, and it's not acceptable. So is Joe Biden too old to run for president? No, he is not. That's not to say it's not completely fair to say, well, for the job of president, I want my candidates to have a certain mental capacity, a certain physical stamina, because that job, when it's done right, is quite possibly the toughest job in the world. So you want a president that can cope with that and can keep up with it. And you might ask that of any candidate, regardless of their age. And that's a fair question. That's an entirely fair question. So if you're worried about Joe Biden as a potential president, you got to judge him as an individual. What's going on with him? Is he in physically good shape? Is he in mentally good shape? That's the question to ask, not is he too old? While I'm talking about the presidency, I just wanted to mention one other thing as well. When I was growing up, the Senate of the United States was not treated like a waiting room for the presidency. For the last couple of years, all of the speculation about who's going to run for president against Donald Trump is about which senator is going to run, this senator or that senator, which is new. I don't know that younger people necessarily be aware of this, but it didn't used to be like that. When I was growing up, it was all about governors. In fact, I know it's easy to think of senators running for presidents because Obama, our president for 8 years quite recently, was also a senator, or he served half a term as a senator. But, and now we've got all these senators running. So we think of the Senate as this sort of anteroom to the White House. But before Obama, there hadn't been a senator elected president since Nixon. It really was always the governors that were seen. Because of any job in America, the one that is most like the presidency are the governorships. They're responsible for running a government on a smaller scale than the presidency, but still a state government can be a very large operation, particularly in a big state. So it just made sense that you would look for governors who had a great track record, who had run their governments effectively and done a great job relating to the people, good communicators. You know, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, all these guys were governors before they ran for the presidency. And that was the way we sort of recruited and looked for them. It was the governors. This time, we've got 24 Democrats that want to run against Donald Trump, which is an unusually large pool of candidates. And if you look at the breakdown, we've got 9 of them are senators. How many governors amongst those 24? Current and former governors, 3. You've got Montana, you've got Colorado, and you've got Washington State are being represented by current or former governors, Democratic governors running for president. None of the 3 of them, and I've got their names here, Steve Bullock of Montana, John Hickenlooper of Colorado, and Jay Inslee of Washington State. None of them are really in the top tier of candidates that people are talking about. They're not getting media attention, certainly, not at this stage anyway. We've also got 4 mayors in the bunch, which is not a usual thing. Pete Buttigieg is the one that people in the media are talking about a lot, but you've also got Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, is running. You've got Julian Castro from San Antonio, Texas, and Wayne Massimo, I believe, is a mayor in Florida, southern state, certainly. And then you've got about six congresspeople from the House of Representatives also running. most famously perhaps Beto O'Rourke of Texas. But it's strange that we're so focused on senators for some reason. All this talk about, and it's maybe because Elizabeth Warren has been such a potential candidate of high expectation for quite a while now. And then you've also got, let's see, who we've got? We've got Joe Biden, former senator, Kristen Gillibrand, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Mike Gravel. And these are some better known, some lesser known, but it's an unusually large pool of senators. The Senate used to be viewed as this sort of erudite, elite, intellectual body, the legislative body of the upper crust. And they would generally come from wealthy backgrounds as well. Whereas the House of Representatives, the other side of Congress, was the rabble. They were the sort of common as muck body that was elected directly by the people and represented small areas, small geographic areas. And that was the sort of reputation. The senators were sort of more interested in foreign policy and long-term planning. That was the theory. I don't know if that was ever actually true, but that was the idea. And now it's more like senators are seen as kind of presidents in training. It's a different take on it, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I would say none of the candidates really excite me at this stage. We'll see what happens. It's still very early. The other thing that's changed is that presidential campaigning didn't semi-officially begin until after Labor Day. So the fact that it's already going on and is well underway now is also a big change. We're spending years on presidential campaigns now, for good or for ill. Anyway, there's a lot to come. It's still early days. I'm watching it like a hawk, and I shall continue to comment as I find things that interest me. Thanks very much for listening.